Hello, my lovelies. It is time for my February wrap-up vlog, so stay tuned. So it is Friday, February 7th, and I have completed 2 books. So the first book I completed, I think it was on the 2nd, maybe. On Audible, I was listening to Fairest of All by Serena Valentino. And this is sort of a Snow White retelling, but it's mainly told from like the perspective of the wicked stepmother, the evil queen. But it shows how she goes from being a sweet peasant girl, a clockmaker's daughter, to becoming the queen, and being a loving stepmother and wife to what she ended up becoming. And it was quite interesting, and I enjoyed it because I love Disney and I love all that. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Last night I finished You Again by Kate Goldbeck, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I giggled many times throughout. So this is a hate to love romance, and when Josh and Ari first meet, Ari is roommates with this girl named Sophia, who they occasionally hook up together, but Sophia is dating Josh, and he comes over to cook her dinner one night, and there's like tension, and they really just do not get along. And Josh is all about, finding that one and getting married and all this other stuff, and Ari's like, pretty much here for a good time. She's not into any of that. And then they end up meeting occasionally over the years, weird run-ins, and it's usually not a good vibe between them. Fast forward, and now things have changed up a bit. Josh's relationship with Sophia is kind of wishy-washy, kind of hot and cold. It's very bland. And now Ari is the one who's actually married and feels so happy and secure in this relationship. And then, the rug gets pulled out from her. And the one time she's ever let herself really let go and be vulnerable for this person and married this person, they ended up leaving her for somebody else. And so she's a wreck for a long time. Josh has been dealing with this whole family restaurant thing. It's a deli that it's kind of like a New York landmark type place. And his father's passed away, and he is going to take it over and make it into something that he's always wanted, like dreamed of doing with this restaurant, and making it like an ode to that, but upscaling things. And it bombs hard, like so hard. And people think that he just decimated his father's legacy and all of that. And Sophie ends up breaking up with him, and he's just rock bottom. And Ari and Josh end up meeting up again. And again, it's kind of, I don't really like you, but we're both miserable, so maybe we can be miserable together. And it's not like a friends with benefits. There's no benefits. But they're kind of like swiping on each other's like dating profiles, and they're watching movies while talking on the phone and things like that. And this friendship becomes like essentially the most important part of either of their lives as they're dealing with their heartbreak, with their issues and all of this stuff. And eventually, of course, it goes over that line, and Josh is nervous about it, but he's also kind of like ready for this point. And Ari is shell-shocked and flees because she's terrified. She's only ever let herself really truly be that kind of vulnerable with her ex, and she's still like licking her wounds from that. And this is interesting from most rom-coms because it has, yes, sort of that third act breakup, but it's not necessarily a breakup because they don't fully get into it. But it also doesn't have like some miscommunication or misunderstanding or some other person getting in the way. No, it's literally just their own issues and their own trauma and all of this, their own heads getting in the way, and eventually them kind of getting out of their heads and giving into their hearts. And it was sweet. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars as well. So it is Tuesday, February 11th, and I have completed 2 more books. So the first book I completed is There Are Things I Know by Karen B. Golightly. And this was really, really good. So this follows an 8-year-old autistic boy, and he is, he goes on a field trip to this pizza place with his 2nd grade class. And while he's there, he meets a man who says his name is Uncle Dan and that his mom wanted him to come and get him. And he ends up leaving with Uncle Dan. And on the way to his new house, or Uncle Dan's house, Dan tells him that his mother was in a bad accident and is now in heaven, and she wanted him to take care of Pepper. Pepper's the little boy's name. And Pepper freaks out, understandably. But he really, he's so certain that his mom is not dead and that she is alive and that she is looking for him. And he tries everything in his power to find his mom, to try to reach out to his mom. Anytime he'd ever gone anywhere, his mom had always written her phone number on his arm just in case he got lost in black Sharpie. And he, over the years, memorized this number. And he would try and call his mom, and he kept getting this number can't be completed as dialed. And it's because he didn't even know about area codes at all, and he didn't know what his area code was and all of this stuff. And this is him just going through the struggles of school and all kinds of other things, and just being the kid that he is, but also just knowing that his mama is out there and he's got to find her. And it was so good, and I'm giving it 4 stars. Next, I finished When Life Gives You Mangoes by Kareem Gettin, and I hope my battery holds out long enough for me to tell you about this. This is a middle grade book, and it's set in, I don't know which island this is, but it's a Caribbean island called Sycamore, or at least the town that she lives in is called Sycamore on this island. And our main character, Clara, she's struggling with something. We don't entirely know what. She's having issues with friends, and the biggest conflict and the thing that she kind of gets picked on a little bit for is she doesn't remember anything from the summer before. There's something blocking that memory. She just doesn't remember. And her best friend ends up picking on her a lot about, not remembering things. And she's struggling a lot with, this relationship with her best friend as well. And there's another thing with Clara's uncle. He's kind of shunned by their village, and there's so many rumors about him that he's a witch doctor and all this stuff, and she doesn't believe the rumors, and she doesn't understand why he's kind of alone by himself up on this hill, and nobody goes to visit him except for her father, and he doesn't come out to see anybody. And the overall theme throughout this is what happened last summer. Why doesn't she remember? And before that summer, she loved the water, she loved to surf, but ever since then, she's had this irrational fear of going, she won't even put her feet in the water, she's blocked from getting in the water. And she kind of knows it has something to do with last summer, but she doesn't know why, because she can't remember, and she doesn't know why she's so suddenly afraid of water. And This was also really, really interesting. It had a very, very interesting twist that I didn't see coming. I don't know if anybody else that's read this has seen that coming, but I didn't see it coming. And I enjoyed this a lot, and I'm giving it 4 stars. So it is Wednesday, February 19th, and I've completed 3 more books. So the first book I completed was Come Find Me by Megan Miranda. And this book is not not what I expected. So originally I went into this thinking it was an adult thriller. It's not adult, it's YA. And it's not necessarily a thriller, though I guess kinda, sorta, in a way it is. So as I was reading it, I was like, is this paranormal? Because we have 2 main characters, Kennedy and Nolan, and it's told back and forth between their perspectives. So with Kennedy, something terrible has happened in her home, and we only find out what happened in kind of bits and pieces as the story goes on. She's currently living with her uncle, and not in the house where she was living, but she keeps sneaking out and going back to that house because her brother, who's like super smart, he set up this satellite or something, and he was trying to like pick up signals from space. He believed that there was more out there, and she kind of learned how to test this. And she would keep going back to this house to like get the data and all of that. And one day she picks up something, and it's this repeating kind of signal. She can't tell exactly what it is, but it ends up being like a negative frequency. And she looks that up, and that's like only mathematically theoretical and not something that's actual. And so she's trying to figure out what it is and posts on this forum to see if anybody knows. Now, Nolan, a couple of years ago, his brother went missing. And his brother's like, you know, Mr. Perfect and athlete and good student and popular and all that stuff. So not likely somebody that would actually run away or anything like that. But he's been missing for years now, and his whole world has kind of been turned upside down. His parents started a nonprofit for missing youth, and it's literally taken over his entire house. And he has this moment where when he's like half awake, half asleep, he's got a fever, he has like this fever dream where he sees his brother. And his brother is kind of stuck behind this barrier, and he's trying to say something, and all he can make out is, "Help us, please." And so he ends up buying all of this stuff to like find ghosts or whatever, trying to look for signals and stuff. And he ends up picking up the same kind of symbol, the same kind of signal with this repeating pattern that Kennedy has come across. And he's trying to figure out what this is, where it's coming from. And they end up kind of coming together to try to solve what this signal is. And this book had a lot of twists and turns and a lot of unexpected things. And I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I give it 4 stars. Next, I read The Brightest Night by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 3 in the Origin series. And when I tell you that I became very upset towards the end of this book, because originally I thought that this was a trilogy and that this was going to be the last book. And as I was getting closer to the end, I was like, how in the world are they going to finish everything at this point in time in the book? It's not. There's a 4th book called The Fevered Winter that has been expected for years and has not yet come out. And the way that this book ended, I was just like, it's just going to leave me like that? I mean, it's on like a cliffhanger. And
I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I'm giving it 4 stars, but I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because at this point in time, I have to assume that we're not going to get the 4th book because it's been like 5 years since The Brightest Night came out. And she's putting out lots of other books. So I don't know that there's ever going to be a conclusion to this series, and I'm just not okay with how it ended. And then just now I completed Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. This is a children's book. I think most people know what this book is about, but we have a pig named Wilbur who Fern here saves from being slaughtered, from being the runt of the litter. And then he ends up being sold to her neighbor, where the Wilkinsons or something like that. And Wilbur finds out that he is eventually going to be killed for meat and doesn't want that. And he has made a friend with a spider named Charlotte. And Charlotte is trying to save his life. And she weaves words into her web that get Wilbur quite famous. And the first thing she weaves is some pig. And everybody kind of goes crazy for it. And she weaves other words into webs as well. This is a very sweet book. It's very much about friends and love and loyalty. And it's also quite sad because, you know, certain creatures' lives don't last a long time. But I'm giving this 5 stars. It was fantastic. So it is still Wednesday, February 19th, and I've completed one more book. I finished Famous for a Living by Melissa Ferguson. This was one of my Once Upon a Book Club books. And if you want to see me opening all the gifts for this, you'll need to check out this month's Better Book It game. This follows Kat Cranwell, who is a social media influencer. She's been one since she was like 15, and she is now 30 years old. And on her 30th birthday, she's getting ready to launch this big app with her and a partner, and life is looking great. And then something happens, a deal gone wrong, and all this happens in the first chapter. Deal goes wrong, and she is now in big trouble. And something with this app has gone wrong, and they're thinking that people, like, they're selling people's information and all this stuff. So she's possibly on the line for like a $26 million lawsuit or something like that. Brands don't want to work with her, a whole bunch of other things. To kind of step away from all of that and get out of the spotlight a little bit, she goes to work with her uncle at the Cannery National Park and work as their social media influencer. And the park is kind of struggling, and if they don't get more people coming in, their park's going to get merged with another one. And her uncle and the people that work there are going to be out of a job. And she does everything in her power to try to help this park. There's also a handsome park ranger who is very averse to social media with his own reasons. And Kat is not somebody that he seems like he could get along with at all. And so they clash. But this is a rom-com, so of course they end up together. And it was cute. I enjoyed it a lot. It also had a little bit of a moral to the story with this as well, about stepping away from your phone a little while and living in the moment and not letting the likes and comments and things like that to define you. And yeah, I give it 3.5 stars. So it's Thursday, February 20th, and I've completed one more book. I read Take the Mic, Fictional Stories of Everyday Resistance, edited by Bethany C. Morrow. This book has stories by Jason Reynolds, Samira Ahmed, L.D. Lewis, Ray Stovey, Laura Silverman, Sophia Kia Brown, Quintero, Darcy Little Badger, Connie Sun, Yamil Saeed Mendez, and Bethany C. Morrow. And I will tell you that, so this book was written during the time of Trump's first presidency. And well, a lot of the stories in here were. There's a lot about the racism and sexism and hate that was going on more profoundly during that time, as well as other times, as including like there's a story in here about a little Islamic girl who somebody asked her, "Are you the good kind, or are you the kind that likes to blow up our buildings?" when she's like 7 or 8 years old, and the poor thing's just not even prepared for that. And stories about racism in here when people are being unknowingly racist and need to have that pointed out to them that they're being that way, even if their intentions were good or not. There's a story about a non-binary student who they have to do volunteer hours, and they end up signing up for this Northeastern or Northwest Prime Association or Pride Association, and they do like a buddy thing with like a big sister, big brother type thing with queer kids. And so Parker is a high school student and is a trans non-binary, and they end up mentoring a trans boy, like a middle school trans boy. At the same time, her school is supposed to have these like gender neutral bathrooms, and they don't. And she's, not a big deal. But through being a buddy to this kid, they realize that yes, it is a big deal, and they want to fight to make that right. And it's lots of little stories like that, and it was so freaking fantastic, and I give it 4.5 stars, and I highly, highly recommend you read this. I feel like it's even more important now than it was when this first came out. So it is Thursday, February 20th, and I've completed one more book. I finished Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. I got it on Libby, and this is very fairy tale-esque. Our main character, Liska, she was born with magic, and magic is very frowned upon in the community that she lives in, and she's kind of always trying to stifle it and hide it and not be discovered by other people. Like, her parents took her to a priest to get an exorcism, things like that. But she has had mishaps with her magic in the past, and she's afraid of it, and she doesn't want people to dislike her or to be pushed out of her village. And so she goes to this magical wood where there's like a certain night of the year you can pick this fern flower and make a wish. And while she's in this wood, she comes across pretty much a demon, and he makes a deal with her that because he is the warden of this wood, in order for her to get her wish, she needs to serve him for a year. And during this time, he's trying to make her see that her magic's not actually bad, and that the reason why the village and these people are unkind about her and her magic is because it's different, and they're afraid, and they know that she can be very powerful. And over this course, we see that he's not as bad as people think, and he's not actually like a real demon, and that her magic can be used for good. And I enjoyed it. It was fine. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. So it is Friday, February 28th, and I've completed 3 more books. I actually finished these during my coffee exclusive vlog, and that was on Sunday. So I haven't read anything in a few days, and I hadn't had a chance to come and update you until now. But I finished these 3, and I also started and DNF'd another, which allowed me to get rid of a total of 3 books off of my These Books Will Self-Destruct shelf. So let me start with the one that I started and DNF'd. That is Gingerbread by Rachel Cohen. I did not get very far into this at all. I started with listening to the audiobook, and the narrator, was just too cringy for me. And then I was like, well, let me just
see you for a little bit, and I couldn't even get through, I want to say it was like the first chapter, and I was just like, I don't like anything about this book. I'm not drawn in. I don't like the character names. It all seems very cringy. So I was able to unhaul this as well as these that are going to go into my unhaul stack upstairs. The three that I did read, first off, I read The Beast Within by Serena Valentino. This is the second book in the Villainous collection. This was fun. This was kind of a beast story and how he became the beast and you know, all of this other stuff. And it was kind of interesting because like Gaston and the Beast were friends before everything. And I also like how the stories do slightly intertwine with each other, because the first one was like Snow White and the Evil Queen, and we got to see how the Evil Queen became who she was. But there's mentions of that in here, as well as mentions of the next story, which is the one with Ursula. And I really enjoyed it. I don't see myself reading again, but I do have like the whole collection on Audible. I'm giving this one a 3.5, and I will be unhauling this as well. Then I read Greek Gods # Squad Goals by Courtney Carbone. These are cute. They're told in like multimedia format and like text and things like that. And it's just like all of the different Greek gods and goddesses and, you know, their stories. And like it starts out with Gaia and Uranus and them having all their children and the names of all the children and the groups of all of those, and like the Titans and just all of that. And it was fun. I enjoy reading these. I feel like this one, though, I'm not going to read again, and I'm giving this one a 3.5. But I'll be unhauling this one as well. And then the last one I completed was I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. And this one was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. So our main character, what was her name? Poppy. It starts out with her desperately searching for her engagement ring, which she has kind of not really lost, but she was at this event, and all of her friends were wanting to try on her ring, and it's this family heirloom, antique, emerald ring, and she's going to be meeting his parents like the next day, and so she's desperately got to find this ring. And anyway, while they're at this event, there's a fire alarm that goes off and everybody has to evacuate, and she kind of loses track of who's got the ring, and then she's like desperately trying to contact everybody, and nobody knows who had it last or whatever, and she's searching the ballroom, and finally she goes outside to make a phone call, and she's already given her number to like the hotel and everything, all of the different people, so that they can call her if they find this ring. But then while she's outside making this phone call, somebody on a bike goes by and snatches her phone. So now she's freaking out because she has no phone, and how are they going to contact her if they find it? And while she's inside and she's like pacing around trying to figure out what to do, she happens to notice a phone that has been thrown away in the trash, and she's like, perfect. So she ends up giving this number out to all of the employees and stuff, and she's like, finders keepers, it was thrown away, it's free game. Apparently though, this phone belonged to a PA who quit in the middle of the day because she got a job as a model. So the boss of this PA now wants this phone back, and Poppy's like, I'm sorry, I need it. And so she convinces him to let her keep it for just a couple of days until she finds her ring, and she's also trying to play off, you know, hiding her hand and things like that when she meets the parents. And throughout the course of this, she's like, I will send you all your messages, forward all your emails. Though, of course, she's also reading them because she just can't help herself. And she starts pretty much acting like his PA. But then, and she's giving him a hard time, too, about not responding to certain emails or people and things like that. And then eventually she starts taking it upon herself to respond to things, which causes all kinds of chaos in his life. But then something is going on with his company, and Poppy might be the only one that can help. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I don't know if I would read this again. I think I'm going to give this one a 3.75. I believe I might have given it a 3.5 originally, but I think I would give this a 3.75. I did buy this on like using one of my Audible credits, So I'm going to be unhauling this copy because I don't think I would physically read it again. Plus, this is like a copy that came from a library, like sale or something. But that is everything that I have read in February. I feel like I got through quite a bit. I can't remember what the number is. I'll put it up here. But have you guys read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!